Morning, everyone. Welcome to the very dark theme of end. And before we begin, let me ask you, why are you here? And I noticed that when Stefania was asking if it's something recently that you ended, a lot of you stood up. So, are you here because you want to know how to end something maybe in your life or in your work? If that's the case, hands up. Okay. So you're looking for some sort of a direction, right? And that's good because I do have a direction for you. And the direction I'm taking you to today is the end of the world. Because that's where the journey of a lifetime begins. And I got two ideas I want to propose. Happiness is about chasing happiness. And not knowing what you're doing can be beautiful if you let destiny take you there. So let's begin the journey of a lifetime at the end of the world. So I moved to Denmark in 2008, right after high school. I studied really hard. I worked my ass off trying to get there. And then I come to this new place. It's kind of like a new life, right? It's like new beginnings. Everything is exciting. There's like new friends, new families, new people that I'm meeting in what people call the happiest place on earth. So fast forward to January 2010, so like a year and a half later, and I want to kill myself. So I sit down at my desk and I write my obituary. And this is it. So what's the first thing that you notice about it? Other than the beautiful hair and everything.
That you are bad at math, obviously you cannot subtract.
Okay, but it's the age, right? Okay. So, basically what happened was I was sitting down and I tried writing about this in a way that, I tried writing this in my journal at first. So I tried to put all the bad things, the bad thoughts that I was thinking about on paper. But my hand just didn't allow all the negative thoughts to just write them down. So instead of thinking, okay, this is how I die, I imagine it with how I will die. And I basically ended up with this, right? I died at 77, Brooklyn, after fighting 3 mountain lions. So after all this, I said, okay, that same very night, I go out to a bar and I meet this guy. And he, we started talking, whatever. And then he starts buying me rounds of margaritas, right? So it's like 5 margaritas, 7 margaritas, 10 margaritas later, he offers me an internship in Copenhagen, which is something that I've been trying to do for the past 2 years that I was there. So that's basically how I got into advertising, by being drunk and by wanting to kill myself. So I'm at the end of the world, and I go on a journey. And this journey, I finish off the internship. I end up at Miami Ad School. I moved to Hamburg. I moved to Moscow. I moved to New York. And everything was great. There was no bad things happening over there. But in order to move on, I said, okay, I'm ready for the next chapter. And the next chapter brought me to Berlin. And this was the first project that I did there.
In December 2012, the DIY and home improvement store chain Hornbach bought a Russian tank and transformed it over the next months into a product that underlined decades of Hornbach's exceptional market positioning. A product created out of passion for DIY and a fair share of madness. The Hornbach hammer was born. extremely limited to 7,000 pieces. The Hornbach fans were involved, even though they didn't know at first what the tank was all about. A web film revealed the secret. The desire grew. The first limited sales of the hammer sold out in under 5 minutes.
Řekněte mi, proč to chcete udělat?
The campaign started in print, out of home, and television. The rush for the Hornbach hammer began. The Hornbach hammer became part of popular culture. Even the official sale in stores ended after only 2 hours. The campaign seemed to be over, but immediately restarted when Hornbach proclaimed the final 700. A central website provided daily updates on exotic places where the final 700 remaining Hornbach hammers were being sold. People gave it all, literally, including traveling up to 600 kilometers. At the end, the hammer's original sale price of 25 euros had risen to 656 euros. The fan base had grown by 15%. The online platform had over 15 million hits. But far more important than that, during the promotional activities in the highly competitive German DIY market, one brand clearly stood out.
Chcete vědět, co já si o tom myslím?
Fits with the theme, you know, that we took something that was bad and like made for destruction and like made for war, and we dismantled it and we turned it into something that's made for creating and something beautiful. You know, afterwards we did like a bunch of other projects. We worked on all these like brands like Google and Fanta and CNN and Adidas and others, and we won about 100 international awards at ad festivals. So what did I do to celebrate all that? I quit. I quit because I felt that my role there kind of ended. So there I was, without a job, without a future lined up. And the world has ended, and I'm going on a different journey to New York. Now I know what you're thinking, right? Self-fulfilling prophecy. This kid said he was gonna end up in New York, and then he did, and then, you know, he's like doing great work. He's like living in these like skyscraper buildings, paying $3,000 a month in rent. He's like hanging out with all these like cool people, and he's basically living the life. Well, you're right. But also, I was very close. I was this close to being deported. And this is a story about partnerships. So I got hired there with one of my old school partners. And, you know, we're working together. We even moved in the same apartment together. We're doing all these like creative art projects together. And then he goes on a spiritual journey, so to say, and he comes back with this like giant totem pole that speaks to him, right? And, you know, he comes to work the next day, and what he does is he tells our boss to go fuck himself. He threatens to burn down the building. So, you know, like everyone at work is kind of like concerned about him, so they tell him, hey, you should take some time off. Just like sit down and just like don't do that much. So one day I go back to the apartment and almost everything was just gone. Like shit is just missing and he's out, right? And things just kind of like spiral out of control to the point where, you know, he, like the building owner once told me that he actually asked him for a lawyer because he wants to frame me for things that I haven't done. And he even asked my exes about dirt that they had on me. But eventually, you know, he kind of like got let go, and New York is very interesting about that. That when you kind of like fuck it up, then kind of like the entire city just like turns against you. And that's one thing I like about it, and that's also one of the only things I like about it. Because I realized that even though I really liked being in New York, I kind of liked more the idea about being in New York. So I threw a going away party, and this was a poster that my friend Sean designed. So after that, I moved back to Berlin for a little bit, and I'm doing some projects here and there. I go back to the school where I graduated from, and I started teaching, which was a very gratifying experience. But I sort of felt this calling from the darkest part of the earth. So I go to Bucharest, right? After all the journey, I come back home, and I land a job as the youngest ever executive creative director in all of Europe. And that whole experience lasted 5 months, or should I say 5 months longer than it should have. And I left. But a month after that, I was working with one of my old bosses from Berlin on this project for Mercedes-Benz, which was like a TV show. And we did a soap opera. And it's kind of fitting with the whole journey of you have to have soap operas in order to move forward.
I love you, Magdalena!
No me prohíbas nada, no.
Te tienes que casar con él. El otro no tiene dinero. We will die if someone finds out what we did.
No one is going to believe me.
You don't talk me like that. I'm your mother, and I'll always be.
I never really loved you. But you are my mother.
But wedding is always better than a good funeral.
Que me dice la chorrada esta. Loco, are you loco? I'm such a hot woman. It is so cold in this car.
Hey, Mercedes, please raise the temperature.
Temperature raised.
And now, drive me to the beauty parlor.
Hey, Mercedes, take us to the beauty parlor, please.
With great pleasure.
Choco, do you want to kill me? It's hot like in hell. Infierno. Turn on the air conditioning.
Hey, Mercedes, turn on the air condition, please.
Air conditioning on.
I want to go out now. I hope the bastardo Gonzalo will like my new hair.
Don't believe you love me anymore.
Don't be stupid, Gonzalo. I have never loved you.
You'll soon find out how strong my love is for you.
You will hate me when you find out why I did. Gonzalo, I'm a horrible person. But I'm hot and sexy.
I hope Dolores Guadalupe doesn't find out who I really love.
Hey, Mercedes, turn on my favorite song.
Turning on your most played song.
Yes, I love this song. Don't tell anyone, Mercedes.
I will keep you secret if you keep my secret.
Mercedes, what is going on here? Who are you? Am I talking to a board computer?
Yes, you are. No, you are not.
What kind of a dark secret is the promising voice of the MBUX talking about?
Okay, but that's not all. And ever since, I started doing all this, went more into freelancing, and that's basically what I've been doing so far. So from one end of the world to the next, here we are in Cluj. And all these 10 years of experiences that I had, I tried to condense them into 5 sort of like takeaway lessons. Every nowhere is the middle of somewhere. And I realized that, when nowhere hits you, when you're at that lowest point in your life or in your career, and those will happen. If they didn't happen, then it will definitely happen. You will have this moment of adversity, right? We've all gone through it. And even if it doesn't seem like there's nothing coming out after that, there's always something else if you just like shift perspective. If you know what you're doing, you're only doing what you know. This also kind of like hit me in a way that, as creatives, we have to learn how to be more vulnerable and how to take our chances in doing something that we haven't really tried before. Because if we only do what we know, then we're never going to grow as creatives. Being happy does not mean being content. So I'm happy now, and happiness is a way to get you out of the adversity zone. And but it doesn't mean what being content is all about, because being happy, it's great, right? But being content just pushes you forward. It takes you, it wakes you up in the morning, to come here at 8 in the morning, and it, like I'm really happy with all the things that I've done so far, but it's not the end. Like, I still want to do a lot of great things, which will be coming up next. Creativity is capital. So, as I've seen recently on a light box, everyone is creative. It's that light box over there. So even here we are designers, we are writers, we are doctors, we're lawyers, we all are creatives in our own way. And if you start using your creativity as your best tool that you have in your arsenal, then there is literally nothing that can stop you. And in the end, stories come to an end, but it doesn't mean there isn't a better story coming up next. So everyone remembers, like, how are things and how are people remembered? Through their stories, right? Stories have united us since the dawn of time. And like, everyone has a story to share that can inspire others. And even if you are, sometimes at the end of the world, there is a new story coming up next. And that's the path that you have to follow. Again, and again, and again. My name is Matei Curtașu. Thank you very much.